Welcome, welcome, welcome to METV. Glad to be here. Got to get used to this thing without the music. All right, that's new to me. I am your host, Calvin Mann, Calvin T. The T is for terrific. Sometimes trouble, sometimes tight, but the T is there. Also, we are in the building with the Queen. Miss Heather, how are you?
I'm awesome, thank you.
Good. And also in the building is David Patterson. What's up, Dave? How you doing?
Yeah.
Do you got it on mute?
I don't think so. Let me see.
Anyway,
Yeah, I don't know if he...
while we're
He's
working.
on. Yep, he's here.
Okay. All right, Dave. And so today we are going to discuss one of my favorite subjects. It's always you're gonna catch the men when it comes to me. You are going to catch them fathers when it comes to me, and we're gonna have the discussion when it comes to both of us. I'm just sharing that because Dave just texted me, "Are you on?" Yes, Dave, we're on. We waiting on you.
Yeah, I see him and everything.
Yeah.
I just can't hear him.
Right. I heard him at first.
Yeah, I heard him in the music.
He must have put it on mute. And so we wanted to take the subject because we're constantly having this conversation. And when it comes to boys, a lot of times we don't want I hear all the stories. Because the dad has a son, he don't want him mentored. Because the kid is doing okay, remember these words, okay and all right, we don't want him mentored, right? Because of the investment or whatever you may see, the lack thereof, all right, we just decide that the boy is not worthy of mentoring. A couple of things that go down. The black boy is the last selected off Big Brothers and Big Sisters waiting list. We are also looking at a number of programs with waiting lists. So shout out to the programs that have waiting lists and help mentor these boys across Michigan. Mentoring is very, very vital. Everyone should have a mentor. If you don't have a mentor, me, at least 5, if you don't have a mentor, there's something going wrong. Dave just sent a message, he's going to start again. And so today with the Queen, we are going to discuss 10 signs that boys need mentoring. Miss Heather?
Yes, thank you. I want to thank our engineer and this beautiful purple that is coordinating for us today and making sure that this show happens. So thank you again for that. I want to speak to the mothers. You know, I have a special place because everything that I'm saying to you is what I'm saying to myself. So it's not something I'm not trying to do better myself. You know, this whole journey of being a mother of a son, a teenage son by that token. This journey is an amazing journey, and you learn so much about yourself and about your own biases and about all the things that you think you know, but you really don't until you're faced with it. And we can all do better. And so this process is about how can we do better, and then how can we really give intention, not just paying attention, but give intention to helping our sons really develop into the men they need to be. And so the information that we're sharing with you is not to put down or belittle your efforts and what you do and what you can do. It is to expand you and to make you aware that we have the ability to change the circumstances of our sons. We have the ability to change the trajectory of their lives. But there is some investment. It's real investment. Some of it is monetary. Some of it is time. Some of it is patience. Some of it is understanding. And some of it is forgiveness. That there are some things that we have to do to be able to help them to navigate. And I look at mothers and grandmothers raising their sons in this way. I believe that women, mothers, are anchors. So you have this massive ship, right, that we call family, and that we're all sailing across this water together, but there has to be someone who can stop the ship. It has to be someone who can navigate the ship. And so part of that is our role, is to be able to stop and start, to be able to navigate, but also remembering that we're not the captain of that ship. We are the navigators. And so let's help to navigate our families across these rough waters. Let's help navigate our sons and daughters in much the same way. So, and as you're navigating, you have to continue to evolve, because when you're placed in water, although it is one of the lifelines to life and family, that it can get corroded. It can get tired. It has to be replaced. All of those things happen. It has to be cleaned. It has to be tweaked. You know, there are all of these things that still have to happen to us, and we don't necessarily want, like, or have to know that that's something that we need. Just to know that because of the roles that we're in, we have to constantly improve our anchor. You know, improve who we do and what we do and who we do it for. So I want to kind of just start off with framing it that way. I really value our mothers and grandmothers for keeping steady in the ways that we do, but also we have to recognize that we have mental health challenges. Mothers, the more pressure you're under, the more stress you're under, the more you're pressed into a survival mode where the decisions that we make are sometimes in crisis and under stress or duress. And we make decisions from that survival mode, which actually means that part of us and part of our problem solving, our logical thinking is shut down when we're in crisis mode. And we make those decisions. That's why we're often told not to make decisions when you're angry. So we are in crisis mode. So when you're in crisis mode, again, other executive functioning shut down. So the things that normally guide your decisions, whether it's your belief system, whether that guidance is past experience, it's only what's happening in that moment. And so I just want to remind us all, because again, I'm speaking to myself as well as those moms who are listening. And there's some things in here for dads too, but for the moms that are missing, because as the anchor, again, we have to be able to help navigate. And we have to know when we're in our strengths, and we have to know when we're in the areas where we're challenged and we need to be and have some correction and have some support. So I just kind of want to start it with that to make sure that we're all on the same page and that the information is being received in the spirit of love, which is how it's being given.
Well, it has to be. We do this simply out of love. If we could, can we start a collection plate, right? For the preaching that we do every Monday. Dave, how are you today?
I'm doing well. Sorry for the delay, but technical difficulties, you say.
You good? I'm doing good. So we were discussing the 10 signs that boys need mentoring. And so to get you up to speed, I'd like to jump out here because one of the things that I often preach and speak about and will continue to do so, something is happening to our boys from the time they fall out the womb and the dad is absent. And when the dad is not present, both verbally, emotionally, physically, in a boy's life, you begin to start off confusing him. The boy has to sit. Boys are watchers. They pay attention. This is why men, when we become men, if we see someone do it, we can do it too, right? But as a young boy, if he's sitting there watching and nothing looks like him, I guess he would assume that some of the things that he see is how he's supposed to act. And that's a big detriment to his growing up, his cognitive health, everything. And when I'm saying that I'm speaking about this because the more I talk about it, Dave and Heather, the more I really want to do a research project on what is happening to our boys at the womb, right? The first one she has here, one of the first signs is low self-image. I just described the beginning of a boy's low self-image. When he's in an environment where he sees nothing like him, that's going to work on him. That's a tough thing. So off the bail immediately, regardless of how we say it, we are in the process of creating a male child that will see himself at a deficit. This is huge. The statistics went out when we put out a relay. 39.9% of our children are born in single environments, whereas there's only 11.4 and 7.9 for other cultures. That's a big thing, right? So the low self-image of a boy, it's automatically shaped in that format. And again, you know, and you can add to it, Heather, but the low and Dave, that low self-image, that piece right there, because I know growing up as a young man, my son often reminds me I had brothers, so I had images to act out. Even though my dad and my mom split at the time, I had to tell you I was cuckoo when my dad left. I cried. I went crazy. By the time I was 10, I contemplated suicide. I was going crazy without my dad, right? But I understand now why, right? I had to wait. I had to actually be in my 50s when someone told me that my dad had me as his favorite. He took me everywhere. Well, that explains a lot of why I was cuckoo, right? And I was going crazy because, you know, I was always with him, and then that was gone. So that low self-image piece, Heather, Dave, I think starts right there.
Dave, how do you see, or how would you describe a young man or a male with a low self-image?
Can you repeat it? It came in low. I'm sorry.
I said, how would you describe a young man that had low self-image? What would be some of the things that would be markers for that?
Isolation, poor communication, the inability to relate to others. One would find themselves outward behavior such as truancy, a little petty crime. There's just so many things that would contribute to that. The inability to develop relationships or quote unquote at that younger period of time, friendships, angry outbursts, if you will. So there's quite a few factors that would draw you and let you know that a young fella has a low self-esteem. Or the other part of that would be the opposite. They would be the class clown. They would be the one to portray that they have a high self-esteem. In reality, they don't. So they'd be bullies. They would be individuals who always trying to shine in a way that is not really positive, but, you know, trying to be majorly competitive, but in a more of an abusive way. Inability to lose. There's just quite a few factors that would contribute to that image.
Thank you.
Wow. The isolation piece. We see a lot of that, huh? When we look at the world right now, who's retreating, men or women? Men. Who's isolating themselves? Men, males, right? Well, I was sharing this earlier today, Dave. When I was young, my mom used to say, "Get your ass from up under me. Go outside. Go do something." Right? Go out. After a while, by the time I turned 16, Dave, I was just bringing the permission slip home. You know what I mean? Here, this is what I'm doing next. Here's where I'm going, right? But she understood the importance of boys in play. Today, we don't understand that, right? We don't understand how that builds a self-image. We're ready to go to the school and fight for the boy. The boy gets into a fight, we go into school to fight for the boy, right? So the boy grows up. What is one of his main issues is his lack of respect for women. What is his other main issue as a young male? his lack of respect for adulthood. What is his other main issue when he doesn't get, the proper raising and mentoring and has low self-image? Oh, I know. Dave, you said petty crime. There's some other ones on this list that we're going to talk about, but the other one is lying, right? That comes down at number 9, right? But we can put that at number 2. We're going to skip through this list if you don't mind, Miss Heather, because this lying piece is huge, and it's huge in your home. For any parent that don't understand that, I'm going to break it down to you very simple, and Heather, you can add and take it from there. Lying is a learned behavior,
Ooh.
right? It's
Ooh.
lying is also
Ooh.
it's also passed through your DNA. If you're a liar, it's going to be in your kids. They're going to lie. For everything that you say, that you tell, that's a lie, that is not a truth, your seed would carry that, right? So for all you players and players and all of you that tell them lies, that's what you birthed on your seed and your kid, right? It's so important that we nip this part in the bud because, they wrote the book about the boy who cried wolf. The boy who cried wolf is about a lie, in my opinion, right? It's creating liars. When we tell lies, right, it's hard for us to believe when you're in trouble and your truth. And that, it could be the reason why when you come in contact with the law, you got to take a deal. Because you a lie, the truth ain't in you. That's what my mama used to say too. My daddy, I remember my daddy slapped Jesus out of me for telling a lie because I didn't know to tell the truth, right? But when you tell lies like that, right, as a young person, you had to learn that somewhere. So parents, when you're in the car and you up front and the kid is in the back seat, they're watching, right? So the phone ring, and you drive in the car, and you already then skip your job for the day, and you healthy as a mug, right? You real healthy. There's nothing really wrong with you, but you took the day off from work, right? So the kid is sitting in the back seat, and the kid hears you answer the phone and hear you tell the employer that you're not feeling good, you running a fever 105, and they on their way, they driving the car. So the kid said, okay, so that's what I'm supposed to do, right? So then that thing comes back in your door when you say, who ate my candy? And the kid was like, I don't know, maybe Calvin did it, but I didn't do it, right? Calvin was at school. Y'all was the only one off. But because you lie, the kid just lied to you, so you more than likely to believe that lie. The first person, and I tell these kids, my mentee kids, my own kids, as soon as you tell a lie, the first person you told that lie to are your thoughts, then yourself. So you took a thought, processed it, said it, and then you put it out there, but you told it to yourself first. So you've created harm within yourself by lying. People's like, everybody lies, a good liar. You need to be a good liar. Okay. God bless you, right? I say if you have to dress up the truth, make sure you put a jacket, a bow tie, a pair of pants on it. Make sure the lie got some shoes on it. You know what I mean? Make sure in order to tell the truth, you can speak and tell the truth in a way that is acceptable to the person that's listening. You do not have to lie to them. Right? The words are brilliant where you can do that. So that's the second one. Your kid needs mentoring when they are telling lies.
I definitely agree with that. I also agree, and you can, we call them all kind of things. A little white lie, an exaggeration. It shows up in a lot of different forms. And it takes some maturity to get through that and get over that, and it could be just a work in progress. But the idea is that you continue to make progress towards your truth, so that the truth will be returned back to you. So I do appreciate hearing that. And I was saying that my ooh comments up again. This is my reflection. So even just some of the areas, the exaggeration, right? I told you to go to bed because I go to bed every day at 6 o'clock. Yeah, no, you don't go to bed every day at 6 o'clock. That's an exaggeration, right? And so even when it comes in that form, you know, when it comes back to you and it comes back, you're like, that is not true, but it's the same thing I did. So I am kind of mindful as a parent to be mindful not to be a hypocrite. So to be careful about what I say and what I do and how I say it and what I do, because it's pretty much instant for me. When I start to open my mouth to say something, I can say, and I did the very same thing at that same age, which means that imprint was on my child, right? Which another area I discovered recently, that incident or area was also passed through me to my son. So some stuff that I've done that I can see in him right now, it comes to me really, really quickly. Like, that is your stuff showing back up to you. Did you ever reconcile that thing that, you know, that is now showing up at your door, showing up and the person that you want to see truth from, that you can see your own truth. So, you know, I just caution our parents to be mindful of that too. We were kids too. And so because we know that the tendency to do certain things that our children have often come from us, even if we don't want to recognize it. So just be mindful of that.
Okay.
So we said you skip down to...
We put number 9 as 2. Dave, number 2 is inconsiderate of others and self.
No, the scripture tells us, love God with all your mind and soul, and love your neighbor as thyself. One of the problems is that most of us don't know how to love ourselves. We have very vague definitions of the word love. Many people say, well, it's personal. This is true. But you still need a foundational meaning to build on. And for the most part, we don't sit down and teach each other about how to love ourselves. So obviously, if I don't love myself, I'm going to struggle in loving you, or even displaying it. Now, some people will do a pseudo presentation and make you feel like they love you while they take advantage of you or abuse you in some form or fashion. We always get mixed messages, especially kids, as we were talking about, as Heather was talking about consistency and you were talking about what they observe. Well, you know, if they see inconsistent behavior, you're telling me that you love me, but you're beating me. You're telling me you love me, but you're robbing me. You're telling me you love me, you're bullying me. Then they'll send mixed messages. So it really becomes difficult for kids to really understand how to display that when they have a very vague meaning of what love is. Once we begin to teach kids on a consistent basis with our behavior, as well as hopefully the person who displayed the behavior is consistent inside their heart as well, then the child would be more prone to love themselves because they've seen a representation of love. So becomes difficult to do when you don't have a good representation.
Yes, the bad's object. Number 3, Heather, issues with authority.
Yes, so that authority figure could be a teacher, it could be security, it could be an older adult, it could be the owner of a store. It could take place in where that person also actually has authority, and so. Those people those young people who don't understand boundaries of respect, I can say what I want to say. I can do what I want to do. To take that attitude is a representation of somebody who needs to be set aside to have some things explained to them. What are boundaries? And I believe that's about boundaries and respect. And so, that's definitely another one that's on another way to recognize that a young person, especially a boy, needs mentoring.
The issues with authority goes back to low self-image, inconsistent of others and self. The issue with authority, what the learned behavior from home. Why should I respect my teacher? I don't even respect my own mama. I don't respect my own cousin. They don't even respect me. I remember standing in the classroom at Henry Ford High School. Like the kids was talking about their own parents while the teachers in the class. Yeah, my parents, they don't know nothing about respecting us, me, right? My parents, they don't get it. They be yelling and screaming about respect them, but they don't even show respect to themselves. These are kids who are walking around in the house and understand that this was the conversation, right? So number 4 is misleads others. Another learned behavior, right? What did I learn to mislead? That's not a natural trait. I'm going to mislead you. I'm going to misguide you. I'm going to take you over here and get you in some trouble. That's not a natural thing. That's something that is learned from them and from everything that we just talked about. Down to number 9, which is number 2, is telling the truth. That's how you mislead someone, right? Hey, Dave, come on over here, man. If you invest $5,000, I'm going to give you 2 bars of gold. These 2 bars of gold, Dave, you're going to be able to take them anywhere. So, Dave, you naive. You buy, you give me 5,000. When you get the 2 bars of gold, it's not really real gold. It's 2 bars spray painted to look like gold or poured over like gold covering. And so when you scrape down, it's a brick. Now you mad. Well, in certain areas, they call, I got you, right? You've been hoodwinked. Buffaloed. There's a number of things that terminologies they use for misleading others. Where did you get that from? Your environment is a misleading environment. It teaches you to mislead others. This is a reason why you need mentoring, so you can understand how to conduct yourself, because you mislead the wrong person. In today's society, there's a good chance you're going to find some very, very hot issues coming your way. People are no longer playing with people that way, and people think that they can, and that's not good. So misleading others is something that is taught as well, and you most definitely, if you got a boy in your home misleading, he most definitely need to come to get some of this leadership that we offer, or any other mentoring program that's offering change to your child. And you got to take what comes so your child can get and be better. We like to control our boys. And we keep our boys very, very comfortable and soft when we control them. Number 6, Dave. Number 5, easily misled. Dave.
Wow.
Yeah, a lot of people easily misled because, again, it comes back to that self-esteem. They allow those external factors to control their internal stability. If you're not stable from within, obviously everything outside you can toss you to and fro. So it's so important that we develop that. But thus far, the signs that we're speaking about all contribute to why a person can be easily misled. Lack of love, lying spirit, low self-esteem. All those things cause the individual not to be stable. And if you don't have a stable environment, you don't have stable mentors or representation, then obviously you're usually going to emulate what you see on a consistency. And as you were talking, that's what I was thinking about. In many of these areas, there's either consistency on the side of stability and communication and trust, or there's the opposite of that. And many of these cases, what we see is people who see the opposite. So therefore, they display these behaviors that really can cause them to go down the wrong path. So easily misled is because you don't have a strong foundation.
Number 6, Heather.
Aggravates others. You know, when you start saying, "Oh, so and so gets on my nerves," they are so annoying. Those kinds of terms. When you start to see that in your boys, when you start seeing that in your men, when you start seeing that definitely is a sign, because that means, again, it kind of goes back to boundaries. And I know we're going to cover a couple more that it also feeds into, but the fact that you would purposely and intentionally do something to somebody else to get an emotional reaction from them. That really is a sign. That is a dangerous sign, because it can move right into bullying. It can move into all of these other directions, because you're not satisfied until somebody else is upset, or you want them to be upset with you while you're upset, so you're not by yourself. So you would aggravate somebody else just to upset them because you're upset. These are, again, more flags to say you need some structure, you need some discipline, and you need some positive guidance from other men to help you to navigate those roles and understand how what you say and do is affecting other people. And you may think it's funny because, sometimes, people tend to think that that's funny when you can make somebody angry, or where you can get a reaction like, well, look, watch this. When I do this, see what happens. When you take that type of mindset, that is still bullying. It's a form of bullying. And so we need to make sure that our boys have that kind of boundaries set. And again, it's one of those boundaries that needs to be set by their own species. Yep.
Aggravates others, right? Easily angered, right? We see this all the time, all right? The kid comes in, right? Dave, you see how the kids yesterday responded to the conversation, right? But the easily angered, JoJo used to be like, none of the kids was like that, right? They just think, oh, he get mad quick. Well, when all you taught is emotional behavior, when all you've been exposed to is emotional behavior, as I said earlier, you adopt emotional behavior because you think it's normal. So somebody looking, what you looking at? Like, people have lost their life just by somebody looking at them. I'm often thinking about the boy, the 16. It really bugs me. And I'm going to go take a look at this story. I've been making that promise, but I'm going to do that sometime today and get this young man's name. The 16-year-old that was on the bike when guy pulls up on him, telling him what he looking at. They drove off. Gang culture, pulls back up, grown men, and kills the 16-year-old boy. Don't know the 16-year-old boy, but the father of the girl that was killed when the cop ran up in the house. The young girl, they got her plastered all over the wall. But the young boy, nobody know his name. When it was her father who gave the gun that killed the 16-year-old, and he reaped what he had sown because his daughter was killed by a gun on the couch, right? Easily angered. You hear him say, I'm upset. I'm upset. Don't talk to me. All that's learned behavior. How do you, a 5-year-old, know to tell an adult that I'm upset? Don't talk to me. Learned behavior. How do you, a 4-year-old, stomp his feet, walks out the room, right? Why? Because he's taught this behavior, right? Easily angered. You talking to me, you say something to me, what you saying? Well, if you talking to me, right? All that is emotional raising. And a lot of people don't want to admit it. A lot of men don't want to accept it. A lot of families don't want to admit it. But that is fact. When you are raised in an emotional environment, I don't care how you dress it up, it's still a chicken. You can put feathers on him, call him turkey. You can put fins on him, call him fish. But at some time during the day, he going to make some noise. It's going to be known as a chicken, right? And we need to understand that our males are very, very emotional. I seen something yesterday, and I'll move on here about easily angered, because this is Domestic Violence Month, right? And domestic violence shot through the roof during COVID. Went through the roof. Men were, right, it got to the point. So, shout out to the haters that use domestic violence to get men in trouble, because there are real people experiencing domestic violence, and you using it and playing. You got to reap that. So you got to be careful. I'm starting to think that's why they invented the Grim Reaper, right? The Grim Reaper show up when you do bad, right? That's who was there, right? But easily angered will cost you, and that is what's happening, because this is learned behavior. So when you say something to me, my response is emotional. I can't have a decent conversation because I've been taught to be emotional when I respond to something that I think offends me, right? I'm not listening to what it says. I think this offends me, so I'm ready to fight you. You see it all the time on Facebook and everything, right? Number 8, Heather stealing.
Yeah, that is definitely another sign, and sometimes we can brush that off based on the value that it may or may not have. Well, it was just a bag of chips, he was hungry, or it shows up in lots of different ways, even around the house, right? This is the change jar, and you start noticing over time that the change in the change jar is disappearing, and nobody's admitting to it, and nobody's asking to reach into the change jar to get change. Somebody's eating all the ice cream without permission. These are forms of stealing, and we have to be more diligent in making sure that those boundaries are understood. If you don't get permission and it's not yours, it's still considered stealing. And you can say, well, it's our house together, what's mine is yours. But even as we do that, we still have to teach those boundaries, because our young people may extend those boundaries to outside of that. Well, we're in the same school, we're in the same class. He had the Snickers sitting on the desk. I wanted the Snickers, so I took it without asking. That's stealing. Those are, again, signs that you need some guidance along setting those boundaries. And so if that happens, it can show up in a big way or a small way in terms of the person that's looking at it. But when you start seeing that behavior over time, it's past due. It's past due to be not only addressed by you, but by someone who can help make that impact and make it clear in that young man's life. Because that behavior can lead to a long-term habit, and a habit that doesn't have to be established or accepted.
Well, stealing is unacceptable in our mentoring program. You will be suspended and then removed. Using the N-word, unacceptable in our mentoring program. We tell the parent and the child, we're not giving second and third chances for stealing at all. We're going to nip that in the bud right away. Dave, number 10, doesn't participate in household chores or other responsibilities, including his own.
Yeah, usually you don't participate because nobody calls you to participate. No one mandates it. Nobody set a standard. One of the things I love about the military, you're going to participate or you're going to be removed. Obviously, when you come in the military, it's one of the things I love. Was that when you come in the military, we have people from all cultures, religions, walks of life, right? And they come in and, man, I don't make no bed. Man, I ain't cleaning up my locker. I'm not doing. Well, before they graduate, you can bet your bottom dollar they done made them beds tight and light. They done fixed them lockers up. They did everything because it was a mandate. What I mean by a mandate, not to be abusive with it, but to set a standard. And if you don't set a standard, then obviously you won't get much participation. And that's where we see a lot of this, because as I noticed, the generation's changing. And some of this, as we always like to say, the young people today, and then our parents say the young people today, but we see continued behavior of lack of, we like to call it complacency. And if parents, whether it's one parent or both, if they don't set a standard that you have to adhere to, then obviously kids set their own standard. And it's like a wild horse. If you don't break it, it's going to run wild. And so we have to set that standard. And in most cases, we don't see that. I go in, this is my classic. So I know how the standard is set. So I'm single, guys. So I go in a woman's home and she says, excuse the house. I say, okay. So then I come back 2 days later, excuse the house. I say, okay. I come back 3 months later, excuse the house. I say, okay. So why would I expect that kid to be neat when the house looks like it's been hit by a whirlwind? Because if the mother or the father or both parents don't set a standard, then the children, again, going to emulate what they see. My grandfather was a military man, so it was already standard. My mother was basically reared under military man. So when I joined the military, I laughed at them. I said, my parents would put y'all to shame, because they had already set the standard. So that's so important if we want to see some type of participation of young people. I guarantee you can go in a man's house, woman's house. You already know the standard and what the child is going to do when you walk in the home.
Wow. Set the standard. Get the funk out my face. Keep the funk. James Brown, right? So what we're going to do, Dave and Heather, we're going to move into what's next. Mm-hmm. right? Which is what we do, some solutions and some things. Heather, I would love for you to start because we need to really get into what's next, because I think a lot of times, again, people take these things personal instead of lessons.
And I'm glad you mentioned that, because what I'm going to share with you, at least these last 9, about what's next, is what the things that we need to consider, and then the things that could possibly guide your next step in terms of action. So a lot of this is about removing judgment, removing the good, bad, right, or wrong, and setting the boundaries, setting the standards for what should happen in your relationship with your sons and your boys. And again, you'll see some of these things, and it speaks to boys at decision-making, boys and males at decision-making age. So we're talking about from, let's say, 4, I'm really going to say 3 years old, but from 4 on up. These are the ages where they really need to have these standards, boundaries, and expectations set. So I'm going to just kind of go through the first 2. Remove the judgment that you can do it by yourself, and you can do it yourself and do it by yourself. Please remove that notion from your mind. We're still talking about raising boys and using mentoring as a tool to help us do that. The second one is to remove the judgment that he will be okay. It's going to be okay. It won't be okay if you're not making it okay. All right? Okay, I'm going to go to the next 2. Number 3, remove the thought that which we're talking about, his behavior, will go away eventually. Like he's going to grow out of a certain behavior without guidance in that process. That's a misnomer. Number 4, the thought that which is his current direction, won't cost you. And it's better to pay now for mentoring. If that mentoring program is $300, $500, it's still going to be better for you to pay that up front to make sure he gets that mentoring versus what it'll cost you in court fees, what it'll cost you in hospital fees. So that could be your own, somebody else's, and or his. So pay the money for quality mentoring. Do not hold back on taking care of that bill. Because, again, you're talking about setting boundaries, standards, and expectations. If they are not set for him and established for him, you're allowing him to go down a course that may not be not one that he wants to experience or that you want to experience. That unknown course could be detrimental.
Wow.
And number 5, remove the belief that you can separate him from his video game, his phone, or his marijuana addiction without help. Like you can't talk somebody out of an addiction. You can get support. You can take them through a process. Again, you try to get to that space before it becomes that addictive level. But again, it's not something that you can do on your own. If you've ever tried to take your cell phone or a video game from your son, you're liable to get hit. I mean, it's a reaction because you're attacking the very thing that he's become dependent upon. And so you want to really be careful, hopefully not get to that point where it becomes an addiction, but that you want to make sure that you are getting support and help so that you're not doing that alone. Because there's a lot of boys in juvenile right now because they hit their parents, they hit their mothers, and have been violent toward them. So be mindful.
Wow. Right?
Excuse me.
Right, because the thing that I'm really looking at, remove the belief that you can separate him from his video game, phone, marijuana addictions without help. You got to get help, right? He needs a mentor, and even the sad part about it, because he's been able to. Here's another thing that you have to stop allowing your sons to do: make adult decisions as a kid. Right? You know something's good for him. But he gets to make this decision based on the comfort, right? Then you'll hear him say, well, I really didn't want to drive way over there anyway, right? I understand that, right? But as a parent, you got to make it happen for your boys, right? For your children as well. Number 6, remove the excuses of self-blame and start today. Number 7, remove the enabling behaviors of doing everything for him. Right, that he will need to know to live on his own. I need y'all to pay attention. Your son has not left your home. Your son doesn't have the capability of leaving your home. I was sharing how it isn't amazing that when you grow up in the environment that you set for your boy, that he can't leave. You have become his woman. You have become his woman. He's dependent on you still making his meals. No, you're going to get your butt up out this bed and start making your own meals. But you still making his breakfast. You still packing his lunch. You still making sure he, have everything. You're not helping him. Yeah, that's all he got to do. Men are yelling and screaming. What kind of need do you have as a woman when you're doing everything? So because you're doing everything, you don't need me. You just need a part of me. You need my anatomy. You don't necessarily need that now, right? So then you find yourself in a mindset headed in the wrong direction, right? But your boy, he needs his father. He needs a father figure. He needs a mentor. He needs someone who can teach and guide and show him. And that's from the word go. Anybody out there that's got a newborn baby and he's not around no males, you are causing major damage, right? Number 8, remove the belief that you are raising a man if you are a woman. Mothers often raise their reflections in boys, not their intention. Ooh, you also asking for a man, but what you raise, right? I want a real man, but you didn't raise one, right? You didn't raise one, and you're very comfortable with blaming the father. You're very comfortable with blaming somebody else, no accountability. So you get so used to not being accountable, which y'all yell and hear men scream all the time. The woman don't want to be accountable for nothing. I can talk to 100 men. You can see that on Facebook. Women don't want to be accountable for nothing. You can't grow if you're not going to be accountable, right? And so that the belief that you are raising a man if you are a woman, mothers often raise their reflection in boys, not their intent. Your product is bad. No woman want that. And after a while, she can't be who she gonna be if he's not a man. It's gonna be very difficult for her to be submissive to someone who has the same energy. That's why they keep crossing over, right? In my opinion. Now, you can like it or not. I'm not mad at nobody, but I'm saying in my opinion, we're shaping the boy not to be a man, but to be dependent. How's it feel to be driving your car and the guy next to you is talking tough and he's sitting in the driver's seat because he's been in the passenger seat all along. His mama let him sit in the passenger seat and get out the car and pump the gas. So guess what? That's the expectation he got for you. He don't know what you want. He don't even know how to talk to you because he been talking to his mama so long. And that's a bad thing out here dating and looking for the woman that remind you of your mama. Don't do that. Don't you do that. I'm telling you, don't you do that. That's a bad look. You need to find the woman that God has for you, not the woman that you was raised by. That's not good. And ladies, if you hear somebody tell you that you remind them of their mama, you better start second guessing the relationship, in my opinion, because eventually he's going to expect you to do what his mama did. And that was everything. Number 9, remove the belief that your son is your companion, or friend. Keep encouragement and expectations visible and verbal. Do something different than yelling. He shuts down. When you yell at a man, he gonna shut down. But some men who've been brought up in that environment, that yelling and screaming, that emotional environment, guess what? He's yelling and screaming back. Dave, what say you, my brother?
Well, you guys brought out some really major points, and all of them are contributing factors in developing the boy to the man. And because of those points that you guys brought out, I think it kind of leads into my concept. As I come in each day and they say, "What's your goal?" Mine is to help men to, in our case, the boys to focus, to center, and develop. If you don't give them something that's positive to focus on, as Calvin was talking about the emulation of a woman trying to teach a boy how to be a man, well, it's kind of hard to emulate a bear if at the end of the day you're a tiger. So you have to create the right environment. So you have to help them to focus. This is about being able to put them in position to get a clear vision of what they need to become. Centering. The aim is to focus on that thing that they put their attention to, their energy to, and to develop is a process. One has to become. Michelle Obama wrote the book Becoming. I like to see that we help our boys to become. And again, even though I initially started off, my mom and dad broke up, and me and my granddad, I had a man in the house, and he set a standard, and that standard is what I wanted to emulate. That was the standard I wanted to focus on, and I centered on to become the man I am today. And then I was able to develop an ability to find more men who had the attributes that I thought was positive to help me develop that concept called man. So I think it's real essential that we all, line ourselves up with the ability to reach out and use what individuals look like. In other words, if you got a boy, put a man before him. If you got a woman, put a woman before him. Because even though I know Steve Harvey's book was popular, think like a man, act like a woman. A woman will never be able to think like a man because that's not what you are. So it's so important that we develop the ability to focus, to center, and develop our boys.
So we got to wrap this up, Dave. We're gonna bring this one back next Monday. We're gonna bring somebody in, and we're gonna have this discussion a little further because I think we need to pour into it. Because next month, doing an event on mothers with sons, right? And we want to make sure that we get this to them. With that being said, my name is Calvin Mann. Heather and Dave, thank you for being here today. Remember, put your family first. God bless you and encourage me. I'm young. Peace.